The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tony Mecia of the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. Today, I'm talking with Tony Salerno. He's the president of Max Hospitality Group, which is the Charlotte company behind Max Speed Shop and several other restaurants. So we're going to talk about Max Speed Shop, which this year in 2025 is celebrating its 20th anniversary. And that's a solid milestone for any business, especially a restaurant business, I think. And we're going to talk more generally about the restaurant industry. Now, Tony has worked in a lot of restaurants. He's been in management roles at Fuddruckers and Red Robin and TGI Fridays, among others. So he has a good handle on this industry. Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Always good to talk to a fellow Tony. All right. Well, I read that you started in restaurants in 1993 as a dishwasher with TGI Fridays. And could you tell me how you got started in restaurants and what it was like back then?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing soccer at my high school, and I had a teammate that said, "You need to go check out this new restaurant. TGI Fridays just was built recently in my neighborhood," and went and checked it out. Got a job working weekends, washing dishes, and stayed with that company for 10 years. When I left there, I was a general manager of the downtown DC location. So a lot has changed since those days. I went through a couple different concepts along the way, but it has always been about the people and about the energy that a restaurant can provide its community. So it's what keeps you coming back for more.
All right. So I got to ask you this, seeing that you were at TGI Fridays in the 1990s, you probably got asked it before, but there's a famous movie from 1999 called Office Space. And there's a scene where the Jennifer Aniston character is at a restaurant that is supposedly sort of a stand-in for TGI Fridays, and she sort of gets into it with the manager because they wanted her to wear more flair, more buttons on her suspenders. Did you enforce flair at TGI Fridays?
So with me, I started off as an hourly team member, and I was drinking from the water fountain, drinking from the Kool-Aid, as they might say. And I was one with the suspenders and the flair, and I got sucked into it and loved every minute of it. Whatever I could do to get another piece of hardware on my suspenders, and learn another station was exciting. So as I went into the management role, for sure, I would always encourage people and challenge them to be rewarded or rewarded in certain ways for doing great things for the guests or for the company.
I know that a lot has changed in the restaurant industries over the years, and TGI Fridays, fun place to go, But as you look back over 30 years, does it strike you that there have been a lot of changes in things? I mean, the things that, the way they were in the 1990s, that maybe you couldn't do them nowadays, or customer expectations changing, or is the way that people view restaurants changing? What do you think?
I don't, co-sign a lot of that. I don't buy into a lot of that. I think people are using restaurants the same way they have before, as an opportunity to go out and break bread with people they either love or have relationships with, or family, friends, coworkers. And I think that still stands true today. I believe that restaurants are a staple part of the community and can provide a lot of different things for guests to come in and do. At Max, we're a barbecue joint that is smashed up with a sports bar and has a great family atmosphere, but also has that bar vibe to it. So I think it provides a little bit of something for everybody, depending on what you're looking for in the restaurant. And I think restaurants have done that for generations, well before my time. And I think well after my time will continue to be a staple within the community.
Oh, for sure. I'm just thinking of things like, it just seems like it's maybe a little more experiential, whereas it used to be maybe more about the food and, the way they design restaurants now, they got these open kitchens. You can watch the chefs, do their work, and, you see a lot of places doing kind of gimmicks to kind of draw people in. It's like, and the Instagrammability of things. I wonder whether that's changed.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is there, right? Because there's a lot of options. Everyone has different choices of where to go today. I mean, if you think about 30, 40 years ago, not as many options, not as many choices, and everyone needed to provide something. And there's a lot of competition out there. So I think those have changed a little bit. What is the experience that particular restaurant's providing, but also, how you attract the guests to your restaurant has absolutely changed. I mean, the days of being able to open the front doors and just have a line out the door and be on a wait because you're there has completely changed. So how we market and talk to new people generation after generation, and use Instagram and use social media, those things. And not to mention the whole delivery element of the industry has evolved and changed and become a huge part of what we do. So from our partnership with DoorDash and our delivery efforts to our new partnership with Nice Day, a marketing agency based out of Charlotte, to be able to help us continue to reach those generations of people that are new to our front doors, So I think those partnerships are important to have, and how we continue to stay connected with people decade after decade.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Max. And I know that the Max Hospitality Group isn't just Max Speed Shop. You have a few other restaurants as well. Southbound, the others. What are the others? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have Southbound. We have the Music Yard in South End Charlotte, and we also have a speakeasy called the Backstage Lounge. So all of those are in South End, but our primary since '05 has been Max Speed Shop.
Right. So Max, and you sort of alluded to this earlier, but I mean, the idea was, it sort of started as a biker bar, right? It was like, is it the, bikers, the barbecue and beer? Is that those
beer, bikes, and barbecue.
There?
Yeah.
Beer, bikes, and barbecue. Right.
Beer, bikes, and barbecue. And yes, founded in 2005 in South End Charlotte. It goes back to the idea of Max, come from our original founders and our 5 partners. They love taking they used to ride all the time, and they would take weekend rides down to Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. They'd go to this legendary biker bar, and I think just over time and through that evolution, they said, they had this vision of bringing something closer to home, and that's where Max came from. And so as they were looking at an opportunity to put a restaurant somewhere in Charlotte and figure out where that would be, it ended up being South End Charlotte, which was at that time not a lot of competition, not a lot of stuff going on down there, right?
Yeah, I think there was Fat Burrito, maybe was over there, or there was South End Brewery, but it was a lot of people don't understand. Like if you moved to Charlotte recently, you don't understand what South End was like in 2005. It was an industrial area. It wasn't like it is now. And you say to yourself, whoa, well, where are we going to open a restaurant? Oh, South End, of course. Like nowadays, that might be obvious. But at the time, there, and probably one of the reasons I guess they built it there and started it there was that the rents were probably 1/10 of what they are today.
Right. Definitely affordable side of town at that time. Right now, a very unaffordable side of town for a restaurant to go into, and growing like crazy. But then they were lucky enough to find an old automotive shop when they were trying to, kind of put this vision together of what is this biker bar-esque restaurant, themed restaurant going to look like, smell like, feel like. And they found an automotive shop, and it was called Max Automotive on South End. Hence the name. The name came from the original owner of the building who had an automotive shop. The partners came together, put their money together, built out that automotive shop into what it's known today. It's Max Speed Shop. And, the idea of barbecue was just through good relationships in the area, and kind of brainstorming going, we know we want to have a cool place to go where weekend riders can come, but where we can appeal to all types of families and blue collar, white collar, no collar, doesn't matter. Everybody's welcome kind of atmosphere with loud music, rock and roll theme, a couple Harleys out in the parking lot, and good cold beer and good times with live music. But the name came easy. It was the rest of the work that was probably a little bit harder and more difficult at the time, and barbecue came out of that. It's been great. We won a ton of awards for our barbecue over the years. So it has been one hell of a 20 years, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's amazing how you've taken that idea and sort of built it into an enduring concept, still standing the test of time 20 years later, built it out, added a bunch more. You got, I think it's at 9 Max right now, or?
Yeah, we have 9 across North and South Carolina. We opened up our first South Carolina location opened in 2012. Our first Raleigh location just opened up last year in 2024. So 9 locations currently, and we have some upcoming on the radar for 2026. we're opening up Fort Mill would be the first one. We go to construction here this year pretty soon. Hope to be open by first quarter next year with Fort Mill, South Carolina. That'd be a second South Carolina location for us. And right behind that, Mooresville will be opening up.
Nice to see the growth. Oh, yeah, I do love the explanation of sort of how Max got its start. It's on your website. It says Max Speed Shop was conceptualized by founder Wynn Davis and Paul Johnson. If we're being honest, the two guys knew nothing about running a restaurant, but knew they loved barbecue, beer, and bikes. So they bought the site of a rundown motor shop, brought in some friends, hired people to run it, and opened the doors to a great adventure on May 5th, 2005 in Charlotte. So it's kind of a nice start. But how do you take that, and you're sort of in the next generation of leaders of this company now, how do you take that original vision of we got bikers and cold beer and good barbecue and sort of keep that as an institution? How do you build on that and make sure that it's a successful business?
I think it's important for us to make sure that the people that we surround ourselves with that take care of our guests day in and day out are good quality people that care about the vision and the plan for the restaurant concept, but also enjoy having a good time and throwing a party within the restaurant each day. I think that's how you maintain a staple, but then also be true to who you are. Look, Max can be a lot of things to a lot of people. But the one thing that we make sure that we hold true is our love for barbecue and the culinary expertise of barbecue and what that means. Not to mention, sports helps. We are very much ingrained in the local communities with sports, and it's not often you see a barbecue restaurant that collides with a sports bar and be able to keep that energy alive within the four walls. And it gets pretty exciting every time a local team's up there doing well. So think that helps. And then having a dynamic cocktail and beer program to boot, I kind of rounds out the trifecta.
And how do you stand out? Because it seems to me like a lot of people have ideas of, okay, we're going to start a restaurant, or maybe that's, hey, everybody's told me my food is really good, or I need to start a restaurant, and they start it up, and then they quickly become kind of overwhelmed, with all the work. You're working nights, you're working weekends. You have to build this into an actual business, and just having good food, I think, probably isn't enough. It's probably a prerequisite, I would guess. Although I would say there might be a lot of restaurants out there where the food is marginal, but they have a really strong marketing or something, or for whatever reason. But obviously, Max is known for its barbecue, for its really good food. How do you? I just wonder, given that so many people are starting up restaurants in a growing city like Charlotte, how do you stand out? How do you make sure that you're still keeping it fresh, keeping people coming in the doors?
Well, I think keeping it fresh, that's one great point. I think a lot of restaurants will evolve over time and try to cut corners and change up what they do. It's important to us to stay true, our scratch kitchen, fresh product every single day, smoked in-house. Every single restaurant has at least one, if not two smokers, and not cutting quarters when it comes to the food program. But it runs deeper than that, and it runs through the team members and making sure we have a great culture within our restaurants. We do things that drive awareness. You got to cut through the noise, and I think through our social media efforts, Instagram and Facebook, that continues to reach new people, but having something to tote about, having something to talk about. And I think when you look at the unique promotions that we do can drive that traffic for us and keep us top of mind for all different occasions for our guests. So for example, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, we have our Max Speed Lunch, where you can get a multitude of items, full meals for $10, and you're in and out really quick. So I think time is of the essence. People have less time today, and offering that $10 speed lunch is important to the business clientele that we bring in Monday through Friday. But we also have live entertainment on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and sometimes Fridays as well, with live music and bands playing at no additional cost or anything like that. There's not a cover charge. It's just part of the ambiance, right? We're throwing a party every single day and have daily drink specials to go along with those as well. But we also appeal to families on Tuesday nights with our Kids Night program. So a lot of different reasons to come see us. And if you can't get to a Max, then our catering department would love to cater events. We have a couple huge smoker trailers that we can bring to any local event, and we can do things as big as a whole hog or as small as a little luncheon for your office. So being able to give options like that to our guests is important to us in the community as well.
Has the catering side of the business grown a lot as a percentage of what you do? Or is it still, I mean, is it mostly the restaurant and the catering's a little bit? I know some places it seems like they get into catering and the catering really takes off. I don't know what you're seeing.
Yeah, we've seen year over year sustained growth with the catering. I think once people see that we can pull up these huge smoker trailers and set up that have TVs and music and tap handles and a big smoker on it, that's exciting. It's exciting for anyone's home party, right? Or parking lot party or event that they've got going on. Catering continues to grow for us. I think that there are companies that we partner with outside of the Charlotte market, like Easy Cater, and they allow us to reach businesses on that catering effort. But people are looking to a lot of times to bring food to their business. So strong that and third party through DoorDash. I mean, our exclusive partner for third party delivery. So both of those have become a huge part of what we do.
Yeah, and I know that when Max started in 2005, its founders either had the foresight or just the pure dumb luck of being in an area that wound up just taking off like crazy over the following decade, really. You know, obviously you're in a good spot, I'm guessing, in South End, and that's a pretty good location, although now there's a ton more competition for people's time. There are also a lot more people, of course, down there. But I'm just wondering, you have restaurants, throughout North Carolina, you got a few in South Carolina. How do I think you mentioned, you got Lake Norman, Steel Creek, Fayetteville, Greenville, Greensboro, Matthews, Concord Mills, and then now Raleigh. I think that's all of them. I mean, how do those markets, you see a lot of differences in the markets, or is it pretty much, are they all pretty similar?
Yeah. I always say it's interesting going around and touring all of the Max Beach Shop locations that we have, because they each have their own personality and feel. In Greensboro, when you go there, we very much cater to the frontline workers. They take full advantage of our 25% off, all frontline workers at every Max. Military, frontline workers, teachers, nurses, you name it. Those individuals get 25% off when they show a badge that they one of the qualified, right? Greensboro, big in law enforcement coming in during lunch, the local fire department, obviously down in Fayetteville with the military, and we're tied to that base and are really excited about the business that we have down there and want to continue to grow in more areas that have military and frontline workers that can continue to come in and join us.
That seems like that makes a lot of sense. I mean, just wondering, North Carolina has a reputation of being a pretty good barbecue state. Obviously, you get into these arguments, Kansas City versus North Carolina versus, Texas or what have you. What do you see the opportunity for growing a barbecue business in North Carolina, in a state, like I say, that's known already for having, in a lot of places, good barbecue?
Yeah. For us, it's about having a variety of barbecue in those options. When we think about our brisket, very, very true to Texas brisket, Texas barbecue. When you look at our ribs, very true to Kansas City. Pork, the way we do our pulled pork, chopped pork, very true to North Carolina style. But then we offer various sauces, whether it's a Western barbecue sauce, Eastern barbecue sauce, as well as South Carolina barbecue sauce to be able to top those that pork with or your smoked meats with. So for us, I think it's important to stay true to those roots of different styles of barbecue and be able to have a little something for everybody, so that they can cultivate their barbecue experience. So you're not going to come to Max and be tied to one style. You get the opportunity to try a little bit from everywhere.
Yeah, and it seems like you've located your restaurants in places that are growing areas, and that's got to be a big benefit. I mean, North Carolina as a whole is a growing state. Charlotte, a lot of these urban areas. Does it help you to be in places where there are people coming from other parts of the country?
Interesting enough, I think that's probably something we just kind of fell upon, right? North Carolina is becoming that melting pot of people from other areas, especially when you look at the city of Charlotte, city of Raleigh. You look at Fayetteville with military coming in, and same with Greenville, South Carolina, where we're down there. That's a huge growth spurt right now in West End, Greenville, South Carolina. So, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all to be in North Carolina right now and have something that appeals to people outside of North Carolina.
What are some of the challenges in this industry? I mean, a lot of times I'll talk to employers and you always hear it's hard to find good people. For a while, this might be loosening a little bit, but the labor market was really tight. Obviously, there were a ton of challenges for all kinds of restaurants during COVID. I don't even know what that must have been like for you all. I mean, but what as you're looking at it now in 2025, and what are some of the challenges you're dealing with?
Yeah, the restaurant industry as a whole, we've all been through challenges over the past few years, but I think that chapter is turning. I think that page is turning, and the challenge as it lies today is really just making sure that we're bringing great people into the restaurant to work for us, and not accepting, not just, I guess the word I would be looking for is just letting anybody come join the team. I mean, being really selective of the people that you surround yourself with that really care about the product that's being put out, really care about hospitality and having a great time. I think that in itself is a challenge, because as the restaurant has changed and evolved, some people find it very transactional. Well, in terms of hourly team members, they want to come in, do their job, and want to leave. We need a little bit more than that, because our guests demand more than that. They want more than just a transaction. And you talked about the experience earlier. It's very experiential, right? People want to come in and want to watch the game and hang out and have a good time, enjoy phenomenal food, but that starts with our team members. So I think that's a huge challenge today. I think the other challenge, when you talk about being a legacy brand that's been around for 20 years in the Charlotte market, and it's just getting started at its growth pattern outside of the Charlotte market, I think it's important for us to reach new audiences and find ways to find them. And that's where I think our efforts with social media really need to pay off for us. And it's important for us to be present and meet people where they are and let them know about the cool stuff going on at Max.
Given that the team is so important in the hiring and having the right people, facing your customers is so important, what do you look for when you're hiring people?
For me, and when we talk about this and we go through these work sessions with our managers that are running our operations, it's really about personality, looking for somebody that you could spark up a conversation with at the table, that enjoys good conversation. We look for those people that are just approachable and easy to talk to and pleasant, and generally have Southern hospitality. Maybe never even trained on that in the restaurant, or how to be hospitable. It just is something that becomes natural. And when you sit down with someone, you start to have a conversation, you can see whether they got it or not.
So what is the growth plan for Max? You talked about you got a couple more restaurants coming on the books. But I mean, how big do you see it getting eventually, and over what time frame?
That's a hard question to answer. I think it's going to grow as big as each community will allow us to grow. It's a hard one to answer, but what I can tell you is that we've got Fort Mill on the books for early 2026. Right behind that, we've got Mooresville. We're turning our attention to the Raleigh area and the suburbs around Raleigh. Look, we've been in Charlotte for 20 years now, coming May 5th, and we just touched down in Raleigh for the first time May of last year. That's where our growth is next. I think we're pretty well rounded around the Charlotte market. We see future growth in the Raleigh market and build that out, and then who knows where we go from there. But we're not looking to stop. We're looking to grow. I'd say comfortably 2 restaurants a year is good for us right now, and I hope to be able to 2 or 3 years from now be able to say that we can do more than that. But we're going to take it and not rush it. We're going to make sure we pick good sites in good communities with great people that are looking forward for something like Max.
What do you think the future of restaurants looks like, especially as it relates to technology? Obviously there's probably some ways that you could be, the restaurants are becoming more efficient by using tech. There's all these things you can a lot of times pay at the table. You can, I don't know that you're ever going to replace, servers, although some restaurants you see they're kind of rolling out these robots that come out with trays or something like that. I'm not imagining that's on in the future for Max. Maybe it is, probably not. But what do you see as far as technology and the way things are going?
I think there's always going to be a new shiny toy to put out in your restaurants that's going to tote efficiency and speed of service. And when I think it's very important to make sure, at least for us, that we don't jump at every new piece of technology. I think we have a great partner with Toast. They have a phenomenal system. I think they're handhelds. We have those in our systems for ease of service. But as far as putting something on the tables, that's just not something we're going to do. We believe in interaction from team member to guest and guest to team member. And My perception is that you lose that. And I think technology can start to get in the way of that. If we can train and develop our people that come with that bone of hospitality inside them, I think that's what people are looking for. And I feel like technology on the table side becomes a deterrent of that. And it moves people more towards a transactional experience. And that's the one thing we fight against is transactional experiences. We need true hospitality. So we're going to be very careful about what we add, what we don't. If we're obviously going to stay with the times when it comes to technology in terms of making the guest experience smoother, that piece of it easier to execute for the guest. But taking over hospitality, if it ever gets in the way of that, then that's probably going to be something that we just don't jump into.
All right. So final question. It is the 20th year. The first restaurant did open in 2005, May 5th, I think it was. So what do you have on tap? How are you celebrating that?
A milestone date for us, right? We plan on in several of our locations having our live entertainment, having music on our stages. Every location's got a stage, either indoor or outdoor. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have some great specials, great barbecue, and throw a party for sure. We're excited about it. It is the time to tip our hat to the past 20 years and look forward to celebrate the next couple of years ahead.
Well, great. Tony, thanks a lot for joining me today, and good luck with everything.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. That's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for listening. The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is produced by Lindsey Banks.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.